The iron collar around Sienna Torres's neck had stopped chafing weeks ago, replaced by calluses that marked her transformation from captured soldier to arena slave. She stood in the preparation cell, wrapping torn cloth around her knuckles, while the roar of thousands filtered through the stone walls. Each cheer, each bloodthirsty scream, reminded her that she was entertainment now. Nothing more than meat for the grinder. Human fighter. "You're up next." The guard barked through the energy barrier, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. Sienna didn't bother responding. 6 months in this hellhole had taught her to conserve her words for when they mattered. The gate rose with a grinding shriek of metal on stone. Sienna stepped into the blinding light of the arena, her bare feet finding purchase in sand that had drunk the blood of countless warriors. The amphitheater stretched endlessly upward, packed with alien species she couldn't name, all united in their desire to see violence. Across the vast circle stood her opponent, and Sienna's breath caught despite herself. The warrior was magnificent in a terrible way, standing at least 8 feet tall, with skin the color of deep amethyst. Powerful muscles moved beneath that alien flesh like coiled serpents, and long silver hair fell past shoulders that could probably bench press a small vehicle. But it was the eyes that held Sienna frozen, brilliant gold that assessed her with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "They send me a human?" The warrior's voice carried across the arena, rich and melodic, despite the contempt dripping from every word. "I am Kelvesh the Unbroken, victor of 300 trials. You are an insult to my legacy." Sienna rolled her shoulders, feeling the pull of old injuries. "Guess you'll have an easy day then." Something flickered in those golden eyes, surprise, maybe, or curiosity. The crowd's chanting grew deafening, a single word repeated in dozens of languages. "Blood! Blood! Blood!" Kelvesh moved first, closing the distance with speed it seemed impossible for someone so large. Sienna dropped and rolled, feeling the rush of air where her head had been. She came up inside the warrior's guard, driving her fist into exposed ribs. The impact sent shock waves up her arm, like punching reinforced steel. But Kelvesh grunted, and in that sound, Sienna heard surprise. "You actually felt that, didn't you?" Sienna danced back as a massive fist whistled past her face. Not such an easy day after all. They circled each other, warrior to warrior, and something shifted in the air between them. Kelvesh's contemptuous expression had morphed into focus, the kind of attention one gave to a genuine threat. The crowd sensed it too, their bloodlust mellowing into fascinated attention. The next exchange was brutal. Kelvesh's fist caught Sienna in the shoulder, spinning her around and nearly sending her to her knees. But Sienna used the momentum, pivoting into a leg sweep that actually made the giant warrior stumble. The roar from the crowd was different now, uncertain. "You fight well for prey," Kelvesh said, breathing harder now. Sweat glistened on that violet skin, and Sienna found herself distracted by the play of light across alien muscles. "But you cannot win. Submit, and I will make your death quick." "Thanks, but I've got plans tonight," Sienna replied, spitting blood into the sand. Her shoulder throbbed where she'd been hit, but she'd had worse. Probably. They clashed again and again, and with each exchange, Sienna learned. Kelvesh was strong, incredibly so, but that strength came with patterns. The warrior favored her right side, protected her left ribs more carefully. Old injury, maybe, or a weak point in that seemingly impenetrable body. Time lost meaning in the dance of violence. Sienna's world narrowed to movement and counter-movement, to reading the micro-expressions on an alien face, to finding the rhythm in chaos. She landed more hits than she should have, each one chipping away at Kelvesh's legendary confidence. The turning point came when Sienna feinted high and went low, her leg sweep catching Kelvesh completely off guard. The giant warrior crashed to the sand, and for the first time in 300 fights, found herself looking up at a standing opponent. The crowd went silent. Absolute, total silence that rang louder than any scream. Sienna stood over Kelvesh, fists raised, chest heaving with exertion. By arena law, this was her moment. One killing blow, and she'd earn her freedom, bought with the blood of an undefeated champion. She saw the knowledge in those golden eyes, watched as shock gave way to something else, not fear, exactly, but a kind of resigned acceptance. "Finish it," Kelvesh said quietly, her voice carrying in the silence. "You have earned the right." Sienna looked down at her opponent, really looked, and saw not a monster, but a warrior who had been forced into this same hell. The silver hair was matted with sand and sweat. Those powerful arms bore scars that spoke of countless forced battles. And in those golden eyes, beneath the pride and the resignation, was exhaustion. "No," Sienna said, lowering her fists. The word echoed through the amphitheater like a gunshot. Kelvesh's eyes widened, genuine shock replacing the resignation. "What?" "I said no." Sienna extended her hand, offering to help the fallen warrior up. "I won't kill someone who's a slave just like me. We're both prisoners here. I won't do their dirty work." The crowd erupted into chaos, some screaming for blood, others howling with outrage at the broken tradition. But Sienna kept her hand extended, kept her eyes locked on Kelvesh's face, watching emotions war across those alien features. Slowly, hesitantly, a massive hand reached up and clasped hers. Sienna pulled, helping Kelvesh to her feet. Standing this close, she could feel the heat radiating from that violet skin, could smell something like cinnamon and steel. "You are either the bravest human I have ever met," Kelvesh said softly, her golden eyes searching Sienna's face with new intensity, "or the most foolish. They will kill us both for this defiance." "Probably both," Sienna admitted, managing a tired smile. "I'm good at making terrible decisions." For the first time, Kelvesh smiled back, and it transformed her face entirely. "Then we shall face our terrible decision together, Sienna Torres. Though I do not understand why you did this. Ask me again when we're not about to be executed," Sienna replied as armed guards poured into the arena, weapons raised. "If we survive that long," Kelvesh said, moving to stand back to back with Sienna, their bodies pressed together in a warrior's trust. "I intend to understand everything about you." Sienna's heart skipped in a way that had nothing to do with danger. "I'll hold you to that." The guards closed in, and the two warriors stood together against the world. The holding cell was barely large enough for one of them, let alone two. Sienna sat against the cold stone wall, her shoulder still throbbing from where Kelvesh had landed that brutal hit. Across from her, the violet-skinned warrior sat with surprising grace despite her size, those golden eyes never leaving Sienna's face. "They will execute us at dawn," Kelvesh said matter-of-factly, breaking the silence that had stretched between them since the guards had thrown them in together. Arena Master Thorn does not tolerate defiance. Cheerful thought. Sienna flexed her bruised knuckles. "You always this optimistic?" A corner of Kelvesh's mouth lifted slightly. "I have been fighting in this arena for 7 years, human. Optimism died long ago." "Sienna," she corrected, "if we're going to die together, you might as well use my name." Those golden eyes studied her with unnerving intensity. "Sienna," Kelvesh repeated, and the way her voice wrapped around the syllables sent an unexpected shiver down Sienna's spine. "I still do not understand why you spared me. Mercy is weakness in the arena. Maybe I'm just weak then." Sienna met that golden gaze directly. "Or maybe I'm tired of being what they want me to be. A killer. A show. I was a soldier once, fought for something that mattered. Here, I'm just ... entertainment." Kelvesh shifted, her movements graceful despite the cramped space. The motion brought her closer, close enough that Sienna could see flecks of silver in those golden eyes. You were a warrior before they captured you? Marine Corps, 3rd Battalion. The words felt like a lifetime ago. We were investigating distress signals in the outer colonies when their ships appeared. My entire unit was taken. Most didn't survive the first month. Something like respect crossed Kelvesh's face. You have survived 6 months. That is remarkable for a human. What about you? Sienna leaned forward slightly. How does someone become the arena's undefeated champion? The silence that followed was heavy. Kelvesh's jaw tightened, and for a moment, Sienna thought she wouldn't answer. Then, quietly, I was a royal guard on my homeworld. When our queen refused to pay tribute to the syndicate, they destroyed our capital city. I was captured during the siege. They thought it amusing to make a protector into a killer. I'm sorry, Sienna said softly. Do not apologize. Kelvesh's voice hardened. I have killed over 300 opponents. I told myself it was survival, that they would have killed me if I had hesitated. But you, those golden eyes fixed on Sienna again, you showed me that survival at any cost is just another form of death. The vulnerability in those words hit Sienna harder than any punch had. She found herself moving closer without quite meaning to, crossing the small space until she was sitting beside Kelvesh instead of across from her. Their shoulders touched, alien skin warm even through Sienna's thin prison clothes. For what it's worth, Sienna said, I think refusing to kill me took more courage than 300 victories. Kelvesh turned her head, and suddenly they were face to face, close enough that Sienna could count the subtle patterns in that violet skin. You are strange, Sienna Torres. Foolish and brave, and utterly confounding. I've been called worse. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither of them could quite name. Then footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, breaking the spell. Both warriors tensed, moving instinctively into defensive positions, despite having nowhere to go. The energy barrier flickered off, revealing not guards, but a figure Sienna had seen only once before Arena Master Thorn himself. He was humanoid, but decidedly not human, with scaled green skin and eyes like chips of black ice. His robes were expensive, decorated with the sigils of his office. Well, well, Thorn's voice was smooth as poisoned honey. The defiant slaves, comfortable in their cell, come to gloat before the execution? Sienna kept her voice level, but her hands had curled into fists. Thorn's laugh was genuinely amused. Execute you? My dear child, you misunderstand your situation entirely. He stepped into the cell, and despite his smaller stature, his presence filled the space with menace. Your little display today has made you both extremely valuable. Kelvesh moved slightly, positioning herself between Thorn and Sienna in a gesture so protective it seemed unconscious. Explain yourself. The crowds are obsessed with you too. Thorn's smile was all teeth. The mighty champion brought low, the human who showed mercy, the dramatic tension. I haven't seen betting this active in years. So no, I won't execute my 2 most profitable assets. Instead, I have a proposition. We're listening, Sienna said warily. You will fight together as a team. Other arenas have already contacted me, offering fortunes to host your battles. Win 10 consecutive team matches, and I will grant you both freedom. Thorn's eyes glittered with malice. Of course, these won't be ordinary opponents. You'll face the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The odds of survival are minimal. And if we refuse? Kelvesh's voice was dangerous. Then I separate you, and you each fight solo matches against opponents designed to break you slowly and painfully until you beg for death. Thorn examined his claws casually. Your choice, really. Die together or die apart. Sienna and Kelvesh exchanged glances. In those golden eyes, Sienna saw her own answer reflected back. Together, they said simultaneously. Thorn's smile widened. Excellent. Your first match is in 3 days. I suggest you use the time to train. He paused at the doorway. Oh, and you'll be sharing quarters now. The audience loves a story, after all. Let's give them one to remember. As his footsteps faded, Sienna let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Well, that went better than execution, did it? Kelvesh moved back to sit against the wall, but this time she was closer to Sienna than before. We have merely traded one death for another. Just slower, maybe. Sienna settled beside her, their shoulders touching again in a contact that was becoming familiar. Or maybe we actually have a chance. I've fought impossible odds before. Never with a partner, I would guess. No, Sienna admitted. Always solo. You? The same. Royal guards trained to fight alone, to be the single shield between danger and those we protect. Kelvesh's voice softened. I have not fought beside someone in 7 years. Then I guess we're both learning something new. Sienna found herself studying the warrior's profile, the strong line of her jaw, the elegant point of her ear, the way silver hair fell across one shoulder. Tell me about your world. Not the fighting, not the capture. The good parts. Kelvesh turned to look at her, surprise evident in those golden eyes. Why? Because if we're going to fight together, I want to know what you're fighting for. What you want to get back to. The silence that followed was different this time. Contemplative rather than heavy. When Kelvesh spoke, her voice carried a wistfulness that tugged at Sienna's heart. My world had 2 moons, she began. On clear nights, they would rise together, one silver and one gold, and their light would paint the crystal forests in colors that have no names in your language. I used to stand watch on the palace walls and listen to the singing trees. Yes, our trees sing when the wind is right. I told myself I was vigilant, protecting my queen, but truly, I just wanted to hear that music. Sienna closed her eyes, trying to imagine it. It sounds beautiful. It was. Is perhaps, if the syndicate has not destroyed it entirely. Kelvesh's shoulder pressed more firmly against Sienna's. What of your world? What did Sienna Torres dream of before the arena? Honestly? Not much beyond the next mission. Sienna opened her eyes to find Kelvesh watching her intently. I was good at being a soldier. Didn't think much about after. My team was my family. The cause was my purpose. She paused, then added quietly, I used to think that was enough. And now? Now, I think maybe I was afraid to want more. The admission felt dangerous, vulnerable in a way combat never was. Afraid that if I wanted something beyond duty, I'd lose it. Better to never want than to want and lose. Kelvesh's hand moved, covering Sienna's where it rested on the stone floor. The touch was gentle, despite the obvious strength in those fingers. I understand that fear. When they took everything from me, I told myself I wanted nothing. Wanting was pain, so I became empty. Sienna turned her hand over, threading her fingers through Kelvesh's larger ones. The gesture felt monumental, a bridge between worlds. Maybe we were both wrong. Maybe wanting something is the only thing that makes us more than just survivors. And what do you want, Sienna Torres? Kelvesh's voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. Sienna met those golden eyes and found herself answering with complete honesty. Right now, I want to live long enough to see those singing trees with you. The expression that crossed Kelvesh's face was complex surprise, hope, fear, and something else that made Sienna's heart race. That is a dangerous thing to want. I'm good at dangerous. Kelvesh's free hand came up, hesitating for just a moment before her fingers traced the curve of Sienna's jaw with surprising gentleness. You are unlike anyone I have ever known. In the arena today, when you offered me your hand instead of death. Something inside me that I thought long dead stirred back to life. Sienna leaned into that touch, her own hand coming up to rest against Kelvesh's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of an alien heart. I felt it too, like recognizing something I didn't know I'd been missing. They moved together slowly, giving each other time to pull away, to reconsider. But neither did. When their lips finally met, it was tentative at first, an exploration of difference that quickly deepened into something more urgent. Kelvesh tasted like cinnamon and something exotic Sienna couldn't name, and her skin was warm as sun-heated stone. When they finally broke apart, both breathing harder, Sienna rested her forehead against Kelvesh's. So, 10 impossible battles stand between us and freedom. Impossible odds, Kelvesh agreed, her arms wrapping around Sienna with protective strength. Want to know a secret? Sienna smiled against violet skin. I've never been very good at accepting impossible. Kelvesh's laugh was warm and genuine, the first truly joyful sound Sienna had heard from her. Then we shall make the impossible bow before us, little warrior. Together? Together, Kelvesh promised, and sealed it with another kiss that tasted like hope and defiance and the beginning of something neither slavery nor chains could destroy. Outside their cell, the arena slept. But inside, 2 warriors held each other and planned not just for survival, but for life and for whatever came after freedom, when wanting was no longer dangerous, but simply real.